Okay, now it's letting me record. Cool. Hi, Matt. Thanks so much for joining me today in this interview. So maybe you could just introduce yourself and tell me what college you go to.
I'm Matt Hilton. I'm a first year lawyer at Emmanuel College, Cambridge.
And can you tell me, first of all, why you decided to choose to apply to Cambridge over Oxford?
So, the law course at Cambridge is basically you do 5 modules per year and you get assessed at the end of each year, so nothing rolls over. Whereas at Oxford, it's you have a few exams sort of towards the beginning of your first year, and then you have I think up to 12 exams in third year across 2 weeks. And that's something I really didn't want to do. Just the amount of stress I think that I would have been under. And so the Cambridge exam system was much more preferable. And you also get, because you sort of do it, your exams spread out over a longer time, you get more options to choose. And so you can specialize a lot more. And so I wanted to go into like theoretical modules. So I've been able to do that. Whereas at Oxford, you still get maybe 4 options overall, but nowhere near as much as the Cambridge law degree.
And how did you actually go about finding that out? Did you just look on the internet, or was that clear to you on the open day or like talks?
It was, I think it was mainly the open day that I realised that um, the Oxford system really didn't suit me. They had the main law talk, which sort of outlined that, but then actually speaking to the students at different colleges, they sort of they preferred that method because it meant that they had time to build up their knowledge and really get to know each module over the course of 2 years as opposed to one. But for me, talking to them, I realised that that's not how I like to work. So I'd say the open days gives you the proper feel. It does mention it on the website and stuff, but I think it's actually speaking to students and how they approach exams. You sort of work out which one's best for you.
No, I mean, I think it does make sense. Like, as I was saying before, the Oxford lawyers had to do their exams this year in second term and then got messed around a bit, really, because those were cancelled anyway because of the coronavirus pandemic. And then obviously, then had to also sit their exams again in third term. So it was just very complicated and it didn't really make sense. And I think Oxford, maybe the law course is more programmed around like trying to cram a lot of knowledge into the first 2 terms so that you can sit the exam at the
Mm,
end of the second term. It just doesn't really make much sense, I don't think. So
yeah.
you spoke about obviously about the law course, but was there, I don't know, anything that attracted you more about the city? Um,
It's well, one of the main reasons why I went to Cambridge or applied to Cambridge was um, family connections. So obviously, I didn't mention anything like this in the interview, but my granddad did go to Cambridge, and when I was 11 or something, he took me around his college, which is where I'm at now. And so I think having that early exposure to Cambridge as opposed to Oxford, which I only went to sort of 7 years later, sort of meant that I sort of uh, fell in love with the city a lot more. Um, and it sort of I got to hear all his stories about different places and stuff, and so I always felt like I always felt more at home in Cambridge than Oxford. I think Oxford's slightly bigger, whereas Cambridge is perhaps more homely. If you prefer like somewhere smaller, then yeah, I think that's sort of what drew me to Cambridge. I think they're both um, beautiful cities. So it's really much of a muchness. But for me, it's that sort of personal connection which drew me to Cambridge.
Definitely. And I mean, you spoke about being shown around manual is so, I mean, Is there anything else that kind of went into your thought process when choosing college? Were you pretty decided on Emmanuel before you went?
I always had an inkling for Emmanuel, but it was really when I think it was the open day, or yeah, it was the open day, being shown around, and Emmanuel's got a reputation of being the friendly college,
Okay.
and I really felt that when going round. The people who uh, gave me a tour seemed a lot more relaxed. They seemed to be focusing more on enjoying their time at Cambridge as opposed to getting the top grades. Um, and it's definitely got it doesn't have a competitive atmosphere. I've spoken to people throughout the year from colleges such as Trinity and Magdalen and Peterhouse, which I think are very academic. Whereas Emmanuel, I haven't felt much pressure at all, really. It's very relaxed. It's sort of you choose what you want to do, and there's loads of um, loads of really nice sort of open, welcoming societies and stuff you can join. And yeah, it does definitely live up to its reputation.
Yeah, I mean, just researching into Emmanuel, it literally came up as one of the friendliest colleges, you know, that whole stereotype and reputation. And that kind of brings me on to the next question. Do you think that Emmanuel has a different type of stereotype, and has that lived up to your expectations? I mean, you say it's not meant to be very, like, well, it doesn't have the kind of stereotype of academia, but does it have any of the stereotypes of being, you know, I don't know, snobby or anything that you might have expected?
It's um, it is funny because it doesn't have sort of that high pressure environment that colleges such as Trinity have, but it's still very well, it still performs really well academically. So I think there is maybe a bit of a stereotype of it being like a fairly academic college, but one which doesn't put much pressure on its students, if you get what I mean.
Yeah.
As for being snobby, I would say it's very middle class. You get people from a wide range of backgrounds. I'd say that there is um, a majority that go to either private schools or state grammar schools, but there is certainly a lot of people that go to sort of comprehensives from across the country. Um, and I'd say it's probably better than most colleges in that respect.
Hmm. And I mean, backtracking a bit, on the open day, did you look at any other colleges? Were there any others that kind of attracted you? And I suppose now, being at Manual and knowing more about Cambridge, if you were at a different college at Cambridge, which one would it be?
Ooh, so the other colleges I saw were we stayed at Churchill, which is at the time I didn't really like it, but actually having met the people from there, it is one of the um, everyone's really friendly. There's not as many um, people doing humanities as there are at Emmanuel, so it's a lot of scientists, but which is sort of what put me off choosing applying for there. But now I've been there, I would, if I wasn't at Emmanuel, I'd probably be very happy there. Um, Other colleges I saw, Jesus was, um, I was very tempted to apply there because
Where's
of its grounds mainly.
okay.
Um, it's it's a huge college, loads of green spaces, um, really nice first year accommodation as opposed to Emmanuel, which is a bit grotty. Um, but I think having come to Cambridge and meeting people from Jesus, there's not that same friendly atmosphere. as there is at Emmanuel, and I feel like I don't really know what goes on there. It's not like other colleges where you sort of go to like parties or events and stuff. It seems quite out of the way, and I don't really. I think I've been there once since I've actually started studying at Cambridge. So I think it's got good academics working there, but apart from that, I don't really have much to say about it.
Yeah, no, that's fair enough. I think also everyone kind of implicitly builds up this college bias. Like I know I definitely did. I ended up loving my college and feel
Mm.
like I nowhere else seems to compare really. So you touched on the accommodation. How did you find your room this year, and why do you think it was grotty?
Um, so I think the block I was staying in is going to be knocked down in 1 or 2 years' time. So
Okay.
um, I think the college are of the same opinion as me. But it's built in the 60s or 70s, and I don't know. I had a large room, which was nice. So having people round was great. There was loads of chairs and like a sofa or whatever. Um, and I didn't have any problems with the heating as such. We got new windows put in, like double glazed ones, and so um, that was that made sort of any heating problems, much better. The main problem for me was that my room was across the road from Spoons, and
Okay.
so on Fridays and Saturday nights, if I was staying in working, then before we had the double glazed windows put in, it would just be you couldn't concentrate,
Yeah. Okay.
um, because there'd be the occasional fight breaking out or whatever, and just a lot of noise and stuff basically. And so, um, but yeah, there were a few leaks and stuff on our staircase as well,
Mhm.
and we didn't have any hobs or ovens. We only had a microwave, which meant, yeah, some people got very creative with making all these like fancy meals in the microwave. Um, One staircase made a whole Christmas dinner out of the microwave.
No
So
way.
yeah, it is possible, but I ended up eating in hall most days because of that. That's only that accommodation block. So there is other first year accommodation which have hobs and ovens and stuff if you want that, and they are
So
really nice as well. So it is, you do get to choose a bit. But I chose sort of this cheaper one.
okay. So is your accommodation ranked then? Can you maybe talk about the ranking system?
Oh yeah, so it's grades 1 to 8, I think,
Mhm.
and um, at Emmanuel you basically get to choose. There's rooms from grades 3 to 6 that are on offer, and they're available in 3 places. So there's Northcourt, which is like one side of college, which is seen as really nice rooms. It's quite old, but it's like really well done up, and they're like absolutely beautiful. And that's but it's seen as quite a quiet place. And then the other two blocks are sort of right next to each other, and it's purely freshers there,
Mhm.
which is why I chose there. And it's seen as a lot more lively. You're right next to the student bar, so my room was actually closer to the student bar than it was to my shower.
Oh no.
Um, yeah, and I didn't at first when I found out. I said to my college parent, "That's going to be quite annoying with noise and stuff," and she said, "Oh no, it's fine because you end up spending that time actually in the college bar,
The
so
bar.
you're not getting bothered by the noise. And so, yeah, I think um, those rooms were a lot cheaper, which is why I chose them, and they were grades. I think mine was grade 4, maybe.
Mhm.
But when you're in second and third year, you get a balloting system, and so basically you get a random place on the ballot, and then people choose their rooms in that order. And I was in the middle of the ballot this year, and there were rooms from grade 1 to grade 8 available. So any money, there's a full range on offer, even if you aren't top of the ballot for second and third years. And they do make arrangements, say if you've got a really strict or limited budget, and you're at, say, the bottom of the ballot, they'll make sure that there's sort of a room that you can afford that's available, or give you financial support to whatever rooms are left, making sure you can pay for them.
That's good. So, am I right in thinking then that although you have a ballot, you do still have to pay extra if you ballot for a higher room? It's not like the room cost is then standardized in second and third year.
No, so basically the price is all done on the grades. So I think it is sort of hard to tell the exact difference between what you get from say, a grade 4 room and a grade 5 room. But I think some of it's to do with location, and basins, and anything below grade 3, you won't get a basin in your room. But to be honest, all the rooms, even the grade 1 rooms, are not horrendous. I genuinely do think the worst rooms are the ones I had in first year, just because they're so because you miss out on stuff like having a proper oven or a hob to cook on. Yeah, I think whatever room you do go for, it's not going to be horrendous.
Yeah. I mean, how did you find the whole food at Emmanuel this year then, since you had to eat there the whole time?
It's after a while you do get sick of it. So it's very. I think that was only because I was there each day, pretty much. I think most people, especially if they've got a hob in their sort of staircase, they'll probably go like once, twice a week, maybe in the evenings, and then maybe once or twice for lunch or something. But going 7 days a week for the whole of first term, and then like 4 or 5 times a week for second term, meant that I sort of did get a bit bored. The food is better than like the average school meal, I'd say, but it's similar in that they repeat often. So I think it's maybe a 2-week menu that probably gets repeated.
Mm-hmm.
And but once again, it is cheap. Like especially formals. Sometimes you can get like really good food for like a 3-course meal for like £7, which is great.
That's so good.
And if you have any like, so the Rowing Society has a boat club dinner every term,
Yeah.
and some other societies have their own dinners, and the food there is like incredible. It's sort of like top restaurant quality, and yeah. So I think the food is good. Can get a bit samey, but for what you're paying for, it's the other good thing about manual is you don't have to. Some colleges you have to pay an extra, like I think it's called a kitchen fixed charge or something,
Mm-hmm.
which you pay on top of your college bill. And so even if you don't sort of have your meals in hall, you still have to pay this like fixed sum.
What? How much is it?
I think it's like 90 to £100 or something.
So cheeky. Oh my god.
Yeah, I don't really know how it works, because obviously we don't have it at Emmanuel, but um, yeah, everything sort of. I think the meals definitely are subsidised, but I think that might be done through rent or something, so you're not having to pay like extra costs or anything. You get a college bill at the end of each term, and that is everything you have to pay, including your hall meals and stuff. It's all on there.
So, okay, so say if I had like a fiver, like what
Mhm.
could I buy in your hall? Like, can you give an example of a meal or something, like your favourite one, for example?
So what we normally have is there'll be um, mains or something. So you'd have a vegetarian option, which I don't know, might be like a veggie pizza, for example, and then you'd have like something with meat in, which might be like a curry or something, and then you'd have sometimes you have a fish option as well, which would be normally just like a fish fillet, and then you have veg, two options of veg, so it might be like broccoli and carrot or mixed veg and cauliflower, and then you have a potato thing, which is normally curly fries, but sometimes they do mix it up a bit. For if you get a main, two portions of veg and curly fries, that's £4, I think. And
That's
then
okay. That's actually okay.
they have they do have like desserts and stuff. I never bother buying them, but they'll be like, I know, treacle sponge or something,
Hmm.
something like warm and like custard or something. Um, they also have a salad bar and sandwiches. Um, so there is a lot of choice. Um, and for £5, you can definitely get like a full meal plus a dessert. I'm not sure how expensive drinks are. I've never bothered buying drinks from there, but you can get coffees and stuff. I know for brunch, which is every Sunday, people like to sort of buy coffees from the coffee machine and stuff. And I think it's quite reasonable, but I'm not sure.
Hmm. So you spoke about the food in hall, but I don't know, what other facilities can you use if you don't want to eat in hall? Like, do you have a cafe or something?
We don't. So you're pretty much on your own. If you don't want to eat in the hall, you'll either have to make your own meals, which, as I sort of said before, can be quite hard depending on what's provided in your accommodation. I think that is going to change though. Basically, we've bought this massive plot of land,
Hmm.
and they're knocking down our accommodation block and basically rebuilding that plus more. And so I think that's going to include a new student bar, which is going to be a cafe in the daytime, which is what most colleges do right now. I think we're probably one of the only colleges that doesn't have a bar slash cafe because our bar is student run right now.
Hmm.
Um, Whereas other colleges um, bring external caterers or whatever to run their student bars, which means that they can be open throughout the day as well. Which, you know, it's sort of that's good, but at the same time, it means it can be quite expensive because you're paying not far off sort of normal cafe slash bar prices. Whereas because ours is student run, um, we can, I think it's like £2 for a pint of beer, which is sort of quite
Good.
good.
Yeah, that is good. I mean, can you talk a bit more about the bar? Like, how do you find it in general?
it's a really good place to be actually. I was in a very quiet staircase, so I'd work till maybe 9ish, or do a rowing session or gym session till about 9,
Mhm.
and then I would go to the bar, and there'll always be people in there, especially first years. So just going there each night is a great way to meet other groups of people. I found in the first few weeks, I definitely met a lot more people um, than I would have had if I'd just sort of done stuff with my own staircase.
Mhm.
Um, and so it's drinks are reasonable. They normally have events on every week. So we have this thing called DJ of the Week, which
Okay.
is just a student DJ, and it's not like that professional or anything, but it's just quite fun. Um,
Such a nice idea. I love that.
yeah, and the sort of the main bar events are called bar X's, where the bar is open till 3 in the morning.
Whoa.
Um, and there's about two or three of them a term, and it's basically sort of they get in proper DJs and stuff, and it's more of like
No way.
it's more of like a club night as opposed to you
That's so
know um, a normal bar. And then it is very fun. It's exclusive for Emmanuel students, so other colleges do similar things, but they open it up to everyone. I
huh?
sort of like the fact that it's only open to Emmanuel students because you just sort of get to mingle with each other a lot more. And it's also fancy dress, so that's quite funny. The variety of costumes that people wear sort of
Uh-huh.
never ceases to amaze me. And it's sort of, you can put in as much effort or as little effort as you want.
What have you worn to those bar? And what's been your favorite one as well? Maybe talk a bit about your favorite one.
um, my favorite one was probably, it's got to be the second one, which was like a Christmas themed one.
Uh-huh.
I didn't dress up for that because basically it was the same night as the law ball. So I was at the law ball till 12 or maybe 1. And then got a taxi back to the Bar X for the final 2 or 3 hours.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's just sort of, I don't know, Christmas songs. I'd finished all my work for that term apart from maybe one supervision. And so there was sort of more celebratory atmosphere that we'd all got through first term, and also having the law ball beforehand probably made it a bit more exciting. So had that, had a lot of drinks there, and so I didn't end up spending that much actually when I got back to college.
Mm-hmm.
Um, as for costumes, I'm trying to think. Um, the first one we had was Halloween one.
Yeah.
Um, I went I went in like a toga, with like one of those Roman crowns.
Yeah.
Um, not very Halloweeny, but it was basically we've studied Roman law this year, and so it was like something I did with the other lawyers. Um, and it was also because that was the original Brexit day or whatever, so it's Halloween/Brexit, and so
Uh-huh.
I had lots of people dressing up as as like Boris Johnson or the Brexit bus or stuff like that.
Uh-huh.
One of my mates, who's a lad, dressed up as Theresa May.
Oh my God.
Um,
That would be so funny.
and then last term we had two. The second one was, to be honest, not that good, because it was right in the middle of term, I think,
Mm-hmm.
or towards the end. Basically, people had lots of coursework and essay deadlines, and so people only sort of went for a couple of hours. And the one before that was, I think, Greece themed. It was like Greece versus Greece, so Greece the country versus Greece the
Oh,
musical.
yeah.
So I just went as, I just sort of, typical leather jacket, slicked back hair, um, you know, nothing too out there. But people did have, I don't know, I can't really remember any of those costumes, but people did get quite creative in that one as well.
So are these like the equivalent of bops, or do you also have bops?
Um, yeah, I would say they probably are the equivalent of bops. There's lots of like different terms for them.
Mm-hmm.
So I think we call them bar X's, but most colleges call them ENTs. I
Okay.
don't really, and I think Oxford calls them bops,
Yeah.
which makes it quite confusing. But yeah, it's there are ENTs that happen outside of bar X's. So, for example, DJ of the week is classed as an ENT.
Uh,
Um,
okay.
but they basically it means the bar still closes at midnight. But there'll still be like a thing going on in college. We have joint ENTs as well.
Okay.
So we had one with Claire at the beginning of second term,
Mm-hmm.
um, and one with St. John's and St. Catherine's as well, towards the end of second term. So I'd say there's probably something going on each week. You've got a DJ of the week and either a joint tent or a bar X or a pub quiz or something like that. There's definitely a lot to sort of keep you occupied.
Yeah, it seems a lot busier maybe than on my college. So I go to St Anne's at Oxford, and
Hmm.
usually have a few bops a term. But DJ of the week sounds so cool. I wish we had that. I might suggest that. I might put it forward as a motion. Um,
Yeah,
so
I
that
mean, ours is just like a student-run thing, and so it is really casual. I think we just sort of invested in some proper speakers and a few like cheap disco lights.
yeah,
And then, I don't know about your college, but we have like an ENTS team. Um, and
yeah,
so they organize it all, and so they'll just spend sort of Friday afternoon setting it up, and then, sometimes it is pretty bad, and that sort of is just someone plugging their phone into an aux cord and then putting their playlist on.
okay,
Sometimes people do have like the proper turntables and stuff and fades. Like I don't really know what DJs do, but they
yeah.
do that basically.
So, okay, maybe you're not a DJ, neither am I, but hypothetically, could you apply to be DJ of the week? Like, how do you even go about playing on a Friday or whenever they are?
You just message the Ants team. So at the beginning of freshers, actually not even in freshers, as soon as you get your offer confirmed or whatever, um, you get sent a massive freshers pack, and one of the documents is this massive booklet of emails and stuff. And if you just search through there, you'll find the Ants team, and you just either message them through Facebook. Like Facebook is the main way for doing everything at Cambridge, or you'll have their Cambridge emails, so you can do it through that. And it's not like competitive or anything. You don't need to like send in a resume or anything. You just say,
Yeah,
"Can I do it?" And they'll say when they've got a slot free and what sort of music it's going to be, so they can sort of make a Facebook event and write you like a little bio. And there's also sometimes what they also sometimes do is if they've got several people wanting to do one on one night, then they'll have sort of sets. So you'll have each person will do an hour or so, to make sure everyone gets a chance to sort of control the music.
Mhm. Okay, that's quite interesting. So maybe moving on to like sports and things. I mean, how
Mhm.
sporty would you say Emmanuel is? And you mentioned you did rowing. Is that through college or is that uni-wide?
Yes, that is college. I say we've got a fairly big boat club. When the college with the best boat club is Downing.
Mhm.
They one of their alumni just gave them like millions of pounds to build this. It's called a tank, so it's basically like an indoor. It's like a sort of a pool, and then you've got like a boat in it. So it's like an indoor rowing
Oh,
center.
cool.
And so, but the good thing about that is that to get to like build it, they had to sort of cut down the hedge in our boat club or something to like fit it all in. And so we get free sessions in their like tank.
Oh, that's
So I've done quite a few training sessions there. And so that's probably one of the perks of going to uh, Emmanuel Boat Club. Um, Sports, it caters for all abilities. If you want to um, do well, sort of be a blue and represent the university, college can be a good grounding for that. So we've got a rower who's on the team for the boat race at
mhm.
Emmanuel,
Oh,
and he'll come back each summer to because basically for rowing, if you're a university rower, you train with the university for October till April, and then that's when the boat races, and then you do April to June with college. And so, yeah, I think it's definitely on the more relaxed side. We have, um, if you're in the first team for a college sport, you probably do one training session plus a match a week. So for football, there's 3 teams. Um, Rowing, there's 3 boats. Rowing's a lot more intensive. So I probably have 4 sessions a week, a gym session, 2 outings, and maybe a race per week.
quite a lot.
Um, it's a lot, and it's the same at every college, but it's getting up early because you have to do the
Yeah.
rowing session before lectures. And so normally in summer term, it's not that bad because you can row in the evening. But we missed out on that this year. So,
Yeah.
but yeah, I think if you just sort of want to have sort of a laugh with your mates once a week, mixed netball. We've got a second team for that, which I don't think any other college does, and that's meant to be sort of the most sort of sociable one because you just mess around with your mates for a bit, and then there's lots of I don't know what you call them, but we have like swaps and stuff.
Mhm.
Um,
Oh, like crew
it-
dates, maybe.
yeah, it's the same thing. Um, and so um, yeah, there's definitely a really good social side to the sports as well. You also have initiations, which can sometimes some like the football one I've heard have been pretty horrific.
Oh, really?
But
Why?
yeah, just a lot of alcohol. I think it was like 9 pints in 90 minutes or something. So one every 10 minutes.
That's
So
lethal. That can be lethal, to be fair.
um,
How was your
so
initiation?
it was
What did you
it
do?
wasn't uh, it wasn't as bad as the football one. Um, there's a lot of drinking, but if you don't want to drink, that's perfectly fine. They at our rowing one, they really did make sure that everyone was happy. you know, doing whatever we did, like all of the challenges and stuff. And we also had one for law, and that was very relaxed as well. They sort of messaged us each before saying, you know, just do what you want to do, don't feel forced or peer pressured into anything. But the rowing one involved drinking a lot, eating a like a loaf of, you know, saurine or malt loaf or
Yeah,
whatever it is.
yeah.
A race to eat a loaf of that as quickly.
Oh
You
my
know, it was
gosh.
the worst one was perhaps when they took us to the boathouse, and we had to do an erg, a 500-meter erg, which is like basically a sprint on the rowing machine.
Oh,
Um, After, you know, however much we'd been drinking,
oh
but
no.
I was fine. Um, I did think I was going to pass out
Yeah.
halfway through, but actually no, I was fine. And then that was sort of the end of it. After that, it sort of toned down a bit, and um, people. I think the worst thing about it was we did the initiation. We went out on a club night afterwards, but then our captain had penciled in an outing for the next morning.
No way.
And so we had to be up at like 5:30. So we probably got back from the club at 4, had an hour's sleep, and then we were out in the boat, and that was extremely painful.
That's
Um,
horrible. Why
yeah,
would you do that?
um, I think that was purely by accident because it was meant the initiation was meant to be the day before, but I think people had blind dates or something,
Okay.
because it was like Valentine's Day.
Oh, right.
Um, and so it got scheduled for the day after, which just messed everything up a bit, really. But like it was really good fun, and it's sort of one of those things that even though that outing was horrific, the day after you sort of look back on it, and you know it's like a funny story, you know.
Yeah,
Um,
no, definitely.
but yeah, I think initiations at Emmanuel aren't anything to be scared about. At other colleges, I'm not too sure. And if you if you're sort of one of these people that are getting involved with all these weird secret societies, um, I think those initiations can be pretty brutal, but that's probably what you get for joining one of those societies in the first place.
What
So,
secret societies? I'm intrigued.
um, a lot of them are for, I don't know, it's like the one like the Bullingdon Club, like their equivalent.
Oh, no
Um,
way. That's
and
still
so it's quite funny because they have this really nice building, um, which is like owned by them, but they were running low on funds one time, and so they've had to rent out the basement to Pizza Express.
no way. Wait, what's the name of the society? Do you know?
I don't know, I'm not sure, but it's probably if you Google, I don't
Yeah.
know.
That's
Um, but it's yeah, I apparently there are various societies like that, drinking and lots of drinking societies. The only drinking society we've got at Emmanuel is a women's drinking society,
mhm.
which is like it's not really that secretive, but it's like um, you know the you get invited by the second and third years,
Mhm.
and then obviously they invite the next lot and stuff. I think it's just their mates really, so it's not really like a proper drinking society as much as just a group of girls getting pissed together. So.
That's so funny. Um, okay, so I've only got one more question for you.
Mhm.
Because I'm aware that we've been calling for quite a long time. So what has been your favourite moment at Emmanuel this year?
Um, I know now. We have a freshers play at Emmanuel,
Okay.
so it's completely directed, acted, and all lights and tech all done by freshers. And so I did that, and I didn't really know at the time of starting it any of the other people involved, but managed to become really good friends with them, and it was it was just really good fun. It was only on for one night, but because it was only on for one night, it meant that sort of pretty much a whole year came to watch it on that one night. So there's a great atmosphere just us performing in front of, all our mates, 100 or so people. And it was comedy as well. And so it was just great getting, laughs from the audience and stuff. And then, sort of the after parties and stuff that sort of are involved with that. But it's just a really nice, I don't know, if you've ever been involved with a play or something like that, you know what it feels like. But it's just that sort of, especially the week in the run up to it, sort of, I didn't end up going to any lectures because we were just sort of doing dress rehearsals and stuff, and we'd be going out for lunches and working on the script and stuff. And it was just, a really nice break from all the work and stuff, and then to have this final sort of performance and after party, it sort of brought everything together. And so it was really great fun. Yeah.
That sounds great. Thanks so much, Matt, for giving such a good insight to Emmanuel College in your first year. I think it's just been very useful, I guess, because I knew nothing about Emmanuel before you spoke to me now. So yeah, thank you very much.
No worries.